And what was the evolution then from your script, or sorry, not your script, but you're pitching to Brian and like, hey, we got a script to in the can to, what is, that's a challenge in itself. I think that common saying
so
is
they had a script.
You win in the lottery like 4 times in a row just to get it finished.
I mean, by the way, this is this is best case scenario. And by the way, we'll get into that a little later on. But with this one in particular, there was the script. They had a quarter of the money, and we needed to find the rest. Yeah. Right. So we said, okay, we've been down this road before.
Yeah.
So we put the budget together, we put the schedule together, and naturally by, the director going out and speaking about this and finding, people who were on board. I mean, there was tons of, investors and donors, right off the bat they wanted the story to come out, right? Because they're very heavily involved in this. And there's a lot of people in mainstream Hollywood and, all types of different fields, massive business owners, and things like that, brand names that that donated to this film because they can't be outspoken about it, but they can put their money.
They can put their money with them.
Exactly. And which is really awesome. And during that phase, luckily we had everything tied down, and a really amazing gentleman wanted to see the stuff on paper, and it all worked out, and he sent us a check to finish the film.
And again, it's very much the lottery, right? And people always ask, so what does a producer do? It's like everything, like literally, and it's every aspect from inception to completion, everything in between, behind the scenes, on camera, like it's just, it's a never ending job. And, like Joey had mentioned, we put together the budget, the schedule, which then allowed for that final batch of funding to come in. And then we had to put together the team, right? Then now you got the team, and we have, we've got our schedule that we have to
abide by.
And, it's like, oh my God, now we got to get these locations locked down. We have, it's just the amount of work, and especially in a tight time frame. We were moving mountains. We really were on that film. We moved mountains, and it's also sorry. When people would hear the director's name, we were getting shut down. Yeah. So Joey and I would be on set, but we're like, man, we have to lock down this other location that we're shooting at in 2 days. You guys are good, cool. We've got to hit the road,
because somebody canceled. After fixing
it, they'll Google his name.
But dude, I mean, with that, just to kind of take it back a little bit, we recasted that entire film 3 months before we were shooting it.
Yes,
really. I remember at one point you said was Keanu Reeves was.
He was looking at it.
It was talked. Yeah.
Whether he read it or not.
Yeah. I remember you were telling me about that.
And it would have been, it would have been a great cat.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah.
Everybody was very hopeful.
You always have your wish list.
Yeah.
And the director always wants, they always have this, person in mind that they've envisioned, throughout this whole entire process, and they're sometimes very hard pressed and stuck on that, right?
Yeah.
So it's up to us to like bring everything down to like a realistic level.
Use suits.
Yeah.
We got to play that role too. Oh man, we got to be the bean counters.
These goddamn bean counters are here.
But sometimes in a very creative way, like we knew that the heroine of this film didn't have to be a big star. You know what I mean? We wanted somebody who could emotionally attach themselves to this script.
Yeah.
Right. So we have this friend, Rachel Whittle, and I'd worked with her in the past on a proof of concept, and I'm like, God, this girl is incredible. So when they're casting, they're going after all these big names. I'm like, guys, first of all, we don't have a ton of money. Like all this is going to the script. There's a ton of locations. We have to put this money on screen, and we'll kind of trickle in some names, with like Eric Roberts and things like that, right? So Andy had this this vision of this blonde woman, as the heroine. Oh, she's got to be blonde. And I'm like, okay, that's, we can make hair color doesn't matter. We can make anybody blonde.
Yeah.
But
we'll call her blonde. Yeah.
I had sent Brian Rachel's reel, and he's like, oh, she's really good, man. How can we figure this out? So we called casting, And because it was like coming down to the wire,
Yes.
you know, we needed to cast this person.
Yes.
And I knew she was going to be great. Brian knew she was going to be great. And he had seen her and kind of like, oh, I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm looking for, right?
Yeah.
So I called casting. I'm like, we're going to do this, you know, the correct way, right? I said, hey man, we've got this great girl. We want her to audition. Send her the script, send her the lines, and let's get her taped. And 2 days later, Andy calls. He's like, Joey, I think we've casted the girl. Was this Rachel that you showed me? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh my God. And she freaked out. She loved it. She was able to, like I said, really connect to the story, being a mother herself.
Yeah.
And she crushed, absolutely.
She killed it. I mean, it nobody could have done a better job.
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
She is so talented, and she really, you know, she just crushed that character and did a great job. You know, we got very lucky. I mean, everybody. It was talk about hitting the lotto, like you mentioned. I mean, it was constant, you know, jackpots for us. We just got lucky at every turn, and there were so many hurdles and there were so many roadblocks, and Joey and I would just constantly kick those things down. And you know, for everybody else, it was a very smooth thing. For us, it was sleepless nights. You know? And it was a very daunting task across the board, but that's the thrill of it. You know, we're producers, man. Like, we love this stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Like, you don't. There is no, right? You have to make it work. You know, and you figure it out. And we constantly have a plan B, C, D. Like, you just have to. You know. So it's always this giant game of chess that you're playing against everybody, and even including yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because you might be sold on a concept, but ultimately, it's what's best for the project. You know, it's always the project is. You know, I like to call it the baby. You know, we're here. It's what's best for the baby. You know, and that's all that matters. Nothing else matters. And then when you see what's best for that baby, then you just have to, you know.
Yeah. It's like focusing on the story.
Yes.
Like, hey, this is what it's for.
Yeah.
It's always story that drives. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to really rid yourself of ego. And that's, our relationship is so great because of that. You know, we've both had worked with people in the past who just, you know, they have to be on top of you at all times. It's like, hey man, like, I thought we were working together. Yeah. And, you know, that's what really, you know, drew me to, you know, to work with Brian. And you know, our relationship has really been, incredible.
Yeah. I'm pinching myself all the time, because it's like, this is the producing partner, like just my business partner that I've always dreamt to have. Yeah. You know, Joey brings the best out of me. You know, it's like, we're a married couple, man. It's crazy, you know, and we build each other up, you know, like it's really cool to pour into each other. And we both have so much great experience in different areres and also life, you know, so it's like what's really cool for me, it's like, it doesn't stop at the job. Yeah. You know, we're constantly involved in our lives, our kids, and like, you know, it's a really cool. I'm just, you know, very blessed in our working relationship. You know, it's really cool.
That's awesome. No, that's sick. And so with the story, like, say, you know, Protocol 7, getting it done and finished, and then with the atmospherics, like getting it out. How was that? I mean, like, you know, doing the pressers, doing, you know, in generality, I know there's connections with RFK there, you know, there's like vaccines in general. Like, it's a very strong story in the time that we live in. And even this was like, you know, a year and a half ago, you guys were filming, you know, I think it was like, what, 2022? Yeah. Fall 22, you guys shot, you know, and, you know, coming off the pandemic, and then, like, you know, it's like, even now, I mean, with the new administration, and like, hey, we're retaking a look at all this stuff, you know, obviously there's a lot more probably resistance back then than per se now. Certainly. But what was the challenges of, like, hey man, we're diving into like a crazy subject matter. Yeah. You know, like, it's like a very divided thing within the US, the world, you coming off the, you know, your freedoms and all this other stuff, you know. And
I mean, it's all about,
everyone has their thoughts, and, you know,
it truly is about timing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, timing.
And the timing has to be right for us. You know, it was a very strange time. You know, we saw the trajectory of, you know, the mindset of the people, and we're like, wow, man, like, it's a great time to release this film. Well, boom, Joe Biden drops out of the race, you know, and we're like, oh crap, everything turned to politics, right? So we're like, oh no, like, You know, what are we gonna do? All of our press, like mainstream press, like got canceled. We were supposed to be on Fox News and all this stuff. Jesse Waters, and we're like, all right, you know, well,
That was just because he dropped out. Like they just took up because of what the cycle was happening.
We got eclipsed completely by
okay.
just the
fact that
campaign,
in general,
you know,
yeah.
Plus, they kind of learned their lesson when they, like when Andy did Vaxxed, you know, it got into Tribeca, right? And De Niro went on Good Morning America, and you know, the film got taken off Tribeca, like the lineup, right? So it got pulled, and it was like this big news deal, and like this anti-vax film gets pulled, and it's like this, it's a documentary, and it's interesting nonetheless, right?
Yeah.
So obviously it was good enough to get into the festival. And De Niro went on Good Morning America and said everybody should go watch this film, and you know, at least
What
ask
year was that?
questions.
Then where was that?
2016.
Oh, so it's okay. So it was like a minute
Wow.
ago. Yeah.
So got massive press, and you know, a lot of people were able to watch it because of that. So I think, you know, the press kind of learned their lesson, you know, to stay away from it, you know, from the name at least. But like Brian said, I mean, we're kind of eclipsed at every level, and you know, for us, we knew distribution was going to be very difficult, you know, for this film in particular. And so we came up with this idea, like, hey, what if if it's not going to find a home here in the U.S., why don't we build it?
Yeah.
You know, so we decided to develop an app specifically for Protocol 7. So we maintain all the IP, we maintain all the rights, and the further along we got in development of that app, you know, the more we spoke about it to, you know, other filmmakers, you know, we realized that it wasn't just our problem. You know, like this is a huge problem, like in the industry. You know,
Yeah, and this is a whole nother subject matter in itself.
Yeah.
Like the industry. Yeah.
So as we learned more, we decided to create a new home for independent film.
Yeah.
You know, which we're calling Yow.tv or Yow TV, and that's entering beta in June.